Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of source material here today. Articles, bits of research.
Yeah, and it all points towards something really fascinating. Neuroplasticity. That's the brain's power to change. And specifically how that links up with, well, physical regeneration, what some sources are calling ageless living. So it's not about some magic pill to turn back the clock, right? It's more about staying vibrant, energetic, whatever your age.
Exactly. So our mission today is to dig into these sources, pull out the key stuff, and really understand this brain-body connection. Think of it as your shortcut to getting up to speed. Imagine, being able to genuinely renew your mind and your body, living with real energy. The science we're looking at suggests this is becoming more and more possible. Okay, let's get into it.
Absolutely. And the foundation for all of this really is understanding neuroplasticity itself. So, in simple terms, it's just the brain's amazing ability to, well, reorganize, to form new connections between neurons throughout your entire life.
Right? Because the old view was different, wasn't it? Like your brain gets hardwired in childhood and that's it. Exactly. That was the dogma for ages. But we now know it's just not true. The brain is dynamic, it's adaptable, it's, well, plastic, constantly reshaping based on what you do, what you learn, what you experience. There are a couple of key ideas that explain how this works. One is the classic phrase, neurons that fire together wire together.
Okay, explain that.
Think about learning, say, a chord on a guitar. The first few times, it's clumsy, slow, but as you practice, the neurons involved in making that finger pattern fire at the same time over and over, and that repeated firing strengthens the connection between them. It makes the pathway faster, more efficient, like turning a little footpath into a highway. Repetition builds the road.
Got it. So practice literally rewires the brain for that skill.
Precisely. And the other side of the coin is use it or lose it. This is sometimes called synaptic pruning. If you stop practicing that chord or stop using a particular piece of knowledge, those neural connections weaken over time.
So the brain cleans house.
Kind of, yeah. It's actually really efficient. It prunes away the pathways you're not using, which frees up resources and energy for building new connections that are relevant to your current life. And this whole capacity for change, this plasticity, it goes way beyond just learning facts or skills. That's what's so exciting and what these sources really dig into.
Yeah, the sources make it clear. This rewiring is the physical basis of learning and memory. It's not abstract, it's actual structural change. And recovery from injury, too. I mean, the sources talk about stroke recovery, for instance. The brain can literally find detours, right? Undamaged parts can learn to take over functions that were lost.
That's exactly it. And that's why therapies like physical or speech therapy work. They guide the brain in building those new pathways.
And it ties into emotional well-being, too, like changing habits.
Definitely. Think about cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. The whole principle is based on neuroplasticity. You're consciously working to weaken old, unhelpful thought patterns, those negative loops, and building stronger, healthier pathways for responding to situations.
And the big one for today's deep dive, healthy aging. The sources are really strong on this.
Yeah.
Keeping your brain active isn't just, staving off boredom. It's actively building cognitive reserve, maintaining function. It can genuinely reduce the risk of decline.
It's incredibly empowering when you grasp it.
It really is. The message from the sources is clear. You're not just passively experiencing your brain. You're actively shaping it.
You are the architect. Every day, your choices, what you pay attention to, your experiences, they are all physically sculpting your neural landscape.
Okay, so if the brain is constantly changing, how does that connect to the body, to this idea of regeneration?
That's the crucial link the sources explore. The brain and body aren't separate entities, they're in constant communication. The brain, through the nervous system, is essentially the conductor of the orchestra. It regulates everything, hormone release, immune response, even down to the cellular repair processes.
So an active brain sends different signals.
Exactly. An engaged, adaptable plastic brain sends out signals that promote, let's call it, growth and vitality throughout the entire system. It's telling the body, we're active, we're learning, we need to be ready, we need to repair and build.
Okay, so let's break that down. What are the tangible physical effects the sources mention? How does a plastic brain translate to physical well-being?
Well, one big area is stress resilience. A more adaptable brain seems better at managing stress. When you learn new things, expose yourself to novelty, you build up what's called cognitive reserve. It acts like a buffer.
Right, and chronic stress is terrible for the body. Inflammation, aging.
Precisely. Chronic stress floods the system with hormones like cortisol, driving inflammation, which is a key factor in aging and many diseases. So a brain that handles stress better leads to less chronic stress, less inflammation. The sources mention practices like mindfulness meditation, measurably reducing stress hormones, maybe by 10–20%. A calmer mind literally helps foster a calmer, less inflamed body.
Interesting. What else?
Hormonal balance is another one. Key brain areas, like the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, are the master controllers for hormones. These regulate metabolism, sleep, growth, repair,
Yeah.
all critical functions. Keeping the brain active and healthy seems to support better hormonal balance, which underpins those regenerative processes.
And what about physical skills? You mentioned learning new things.
Yeah, think about learning to dance, or taking up yoga, or even just a new sport. It's obviously physical, but it's also intensely neurological. You're building complex new neural pathways for coordination, balance, movement. This creates a positive feedback loop. An active mind helps you master physical skills, and being physically active is one of the best things you can do for brain plasticity.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me. The sources go beyond just general wellness. They talk about specific findings like breakthroughs showing how boosting neuroplasticity can directly fuel physical regeneration, measurably.
Yes, this is where the research gets quite specific and exciting. Exercise comes up again and again as a huge driver.
We always hear exercise is good for us, but how does it link to regeneration via the brain?
Well, physical activity doesn't just benefit muscles and heart. It profoundly impacts brain structure and function, boosting plasticity. But it also triggers the release of substances that promote repair and growth throughout the body. One key player is BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of it like fertilizer for neurons, helping them grow and connect. But BDNF also plays roles in bodily repair.
So exercise boosts this BDNF.
Significantly. Sources mention a 2023 review finding that regular aerobic exercise can increase hippocampal volumes, a key memory area, and boost BDNF levels by like 20–30% in older adults. Plus, exercise reduces systemic inflammation, maybe lowering markers like IL-6 by 15–20%, and triggers other growth factors like VEGF, which helps build new blood vessels, crucial for tissue healing and nutrient delivery.
Wow, okay, so exercise is working on multiple levels. What about purely mental activity?
Cognitive stimulation is another pillar. Actively challenging your brain, learning a new language, playing a complex instrument, tackling difficult puzzles forces the creation of new neural pathways. A 2024 study mentioned showed older adults engaging in cognitive challenges actually increased gray matter in the hippocampus by maybe 5–10%, improving memory.
Isn't there that famous example of London taxi drivers?
Yes, exactly. Learning the knowledge, the incredibly complex map of London streets, physically changed the structure of their hippocampi. It shows that intense learning builds brain structure. This kind of stimulation boosts synaptic plasticity, the flexibility of connections, and some research suggests it might even upregulate genes involved in stem cell activity, like SOX2.
And diet, you mentioned that earlier.
Hugely important. What you eat directly influences neuroplasticity and the body's overall environment. The sources highlight things like the MIND diet. It combines elements of the Mediterranean and DHH diets, lots of vegetables, berries, nuts, fish. It's been shown to slow cognitive decline by maybe 10–15%. And then there's the whole area of fasting, intermittent fasting, or specific protocols like the fasting mimicking diet developed by researchers like Dr. Voltalongo.
Right, I've heard of his work.
The sources suggest these approaches can enhance neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons, boost that crucial BDNF, improve cognitive function, and reduce oxidative stress and inflammation systemically. Some data hints fasting might increase stem cell activity by 10–20%.
So creating periods of scarcity signals the body to clean up and repair.
That seems to be part of the mechanism, yes. It shifts the body into a more protective, regenerative mode.
Any other breakthroughs mentioned? Technology?
Yeah, the sources touch on emerging tech, things like neurofeedback, where you get real-time feedback on your brain activity, often via a simple EEG headset.
How would that help regeneration?
The idea is you can learn to consciously influence your brainwaves. A 2024 study showed older adults using neurofeedback increased plasticity in the motor cortex by 15–20%, helping them learn motor skills faster. The potential is, could you train your brain to amplify signals related to growth factors like NGF or VEGF, potentially boosting cell proliferation by 20–30% or upregulating stem cell genes like SOX2 or OCT4 by 15–25%? It's early days, but intriguing.
And brain stimulation?
Non-invasive techniques like TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation, are also being explored to enhance synaptic plasticity. Again, research is looking into whether this could influence regenerative pathways.
Okay, and then there's something called chemical reprogramming. Sounds very sci-fi.
It does, but it's real research. A 2023 Harvard study got a lot of attention. They used a cocktail of small molecules, chemicals, to essentially reprogram cells in mice and monkeys, making them functionally younger, reversing some aging markers.
In the brain, too.
The approach seemed to enhance neuroplasticity, possibly by resetting some epigenetic marks associated with aging and potentially boosting regenerative genes like TERT or OCT4. It's very cutting edge, obviously, but points to future possibilities.
That's quite a spectrum from exercise and diet all the way to these advanced techniques. But the sources really stress that we don't need to wait for futuristic tech. There are practical things we can do now.
Absolutely. The core message is that you can actively harness neuroplasticity to support regeneration using simple, accessible practices.
Okay, let's get practical. What are some examples?
One powerful technique highlighted is daily visualization. Seriously dedicating time each day to vividly imagine your body as perfectly healthy, strong, youthful,
So just picturing it.
but really feeling it. Visualizing your cells, your organs functioning optimally, maybe glowing with health, focusing on areas you want to support, seeing them regenerate, like imagining little sparkling seeds of health.
Why would that work? What's the mechanism?
It's thought to strengthen the neural circuits connecting your conscious mind to the autonomic nervous system, the hypothalamus, the vagus nerve, which regulate things like growth factor release and repair processes. Picturing healing might actually amplify the body's own signals for it.
Interesting. The sources mention maybe pairing this with tech.
Yeah, like using a smartwatch to track heart rate variability while you visualize, using that biofeedback, or even AR apps that overlay positive imagery.
Okay, what else? Mindfulness.
Definitely. We mentioned for stress reduction, that 10–20% drop in stress hormones is significant. But mindfulness and meditation also seem to grow brain areas involved in memory and emotional regulation. Quieting the mental chatter creates a biological environment more conducive to repair and renewal. Less stress signal, more rest and digest and repair signal.
Makes sense. And active learning.
Non-negotiable, according to the sources. Keep challenging your brain. Learn that language, pick up coding, try a musical instrument, do Sudoku or Wordle regularly.
Why is that so important for the body?
Because it constantly stimulates neural growth, builds new pathways, keeps the brain young and adaptable. This signals vitality. It boosts synaptic plasticity, might nudge those stem cell genes like SOX2. Sources suggest making it fun, maybe pairing it with visualizing your neurons sparking or using VR learning apps.
And movement.
Joyful movement. Find physical activity you genuinely enjoy. Try new things, dancing, swimming, hiking, yoga.
Why the emphasis on joyful?
Because enjoyment itself has positive physiological effects.
Yeah.
It reinforces the habit, but also fosters emotional well-being, which is tied into physical health. Plus, learning new movements builds new motor pathways, strengthening that brain-body connection.
How much exercise are we talking?
Sources generally point to aiming for around 30 minutes of brisk activity most days. And again, maybe amplify it by visualizing your body renewing as you move, tracking your heart rate, focusing on growth factors like VEGF being released.
Okay, there were a couple more advanced practices mentioned linked to the tech side.
Right, like using consumer EEG headsets for neurofeedback. You could monitor specific brain waves, maybe gamma frequencies around 40 hertz, which are linked to cognitive function, while actively visualizing regeneration in, say, your skin or joints.
So you train your brain.
Yeah, train it to amplify those potential regenerative signals, NGF, VEGF. The sources speculate this could potentially boost cell proliferation maybe 20–30%, or stem cell activity markers like SOX2-CT4 by 15–25%. Maybe the headset gives you a rewarding sound when your brainwaves align with your intention. Someone even suggested a VR regeneration game.
Wild. And rituals. Affirmations.
Yes, creating daily rituals. Maybe chanting affirmations like, "My cells renew, my body thrives," while using an EEG device to track brain coherence. Visualizing your cells dancing with vitality, maybe the device vibrates when you hit a coherent state.
What's the science there?
The idea is aligning brain rhythms with cellular processes, enhancing neural coherence, maybe syncing signals to amplify VEGF release or boost genes like NANOG involved in pluripotency. Sources mention using 40 hertz sound or light, maybe creating a vitality circle with others.
And intentionality. Mindful connection.
Yeah, the power of focused intention acting as a sort of beacon. Cultivating joy, purpose, visualizing your body as a vibrant ecosystem. Maybe journaling intentions like, my muscles are strong and repairing. Using biofeedback to track progress. Perhaps seeing a 20–40% increase in markers like NGF over time with consistent practice.
The mechanism being.
Strengthening the neural pathways that link your mental intentions to your actual physiology. Enhancing stem cell activity, tissue repair. One source even suggested creating a mental healing sanctuary.
And underlying all of this.
Cultivating a growth mindset. That core belief that you can develop, you can improve through dedication and effort. That's the psychological foundation that motivates you to seek out and stick with these neuroplasticity building experiences.
It really feels like taking the reins of your own biology, combining mind and body practices. You mentioned tools can help.
Exactly. The sources list quite a few. Things like mindfulness apps, Headspace, Muse come to mind, wearable tech fitness trackers, those EEG headsets we mentioned, smartwatches giving biofeedback.
VR and AR too.
Yeah, for immersive visualization or learning, even AI mind coaches that could generate personalized visualization scripts, harmonic devices using specific frequencies like 40 hertz sound or light, and community support finding vitality clubs or circles.
So lots of ways to make these practices more engaging.
The supports, not magic bullets, but they can definitely help make it more accessible.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the big message from all these sources seems incredibly positive. Neuroplasticity isn't just some cool brain fact.
Not at all.
It's like this inherent superpower, right? A lifelong partner ready to help spark regeneration and keep us vital.
Precisely. And the best part is you can tap into it with things that are accessible. Exercise, learning, mindfulness, visualization.
Oh.
These aren't pie-in-the-sky ideas. They build on proven effects, boosting BDNF, cutting stress hormones, strengthening those vital neural pathways that signal health and repair. Every little bit counts. Every mindful choice builds towards that vitality.
So the journey, as these sources frame it, isn't really about fighting aging. It's more about embracing continuous growth, potential, adaptation.
Exactly. You're not just drifting along subject to time. You're an active co-creator of your biological experience.
By blending this amazing science about the brain with the power of our own minds and actions, we can actually amplify those regenerative signals.
And cultivate a truly vibrant future. Yeah.
So here's a thought to leave you with. If your mind, through these kinds of practices, can genuinely guide your cells toward renewal, what limits do we really have as we journey through life? What potential is just waiting there for you to unlock?